2026 is your year, 3 steps to becoming your best self. Imagine waking up on January 1st, 2026, and feeling a fire inside you that you've never felt before. A fire that tells you this year will be different. Not because the world is changing, not because luck is finally on your side, but because you are about to change. What if I told you that everything you've ever wanted, more confidence, more clarity, more success, more joy, is not waiting for you somewhere else, but is already within reach, and it all starts with the choices you make today? Think about the people you admire most, the ones who achieve incredible things. They aren't special because life handed them perfect circumstances. They are special because they made decisions when it mattered most. They stepped outside comfort when everyone else stayed safe, and they took small, consistent actions that built unstoppable momentum. And here's the exciting part. The same power exists in you. Today, I'm going to show you 3 simple steps that can make 2026 the year you finally become your best self. Steps that don't rely on luck, motivation, or waiting for the perfect moment. Steps that, if applied, will start transforming your identity, your habits, and your results immediately. By the end of this speech, you won't just feel inspired, you'll feel ready to act. Because this isn't about dreaming, this isn't about hoping, this is about deciding, raising your standards, and taking massive, consistent action to create the life you know you're capable of. And the moment you hear these steps, you'll realize that 2026 isn't just another year on the calendar, it's your year. The idea that decision changes destiny means that the direction of a person's life is not controlled by luck, background, or circumstances, but by the choices they make when it matters most. Every outcome in life can be traced back to a decision, whether it was made consciously or by avoiding responsibility. When someone decides to stay silent, to quit, or to settle, that decision slowly shapes their future. In the same way, when someone decides to stand up, try again, or demand more from themselves, their future begins to shift. A decision is powerful because it sends a clear message to the mind about what is no longer acceptable and what must now change. Many people confuse decisions with wishes. A wish is passive and waits for conditions to improve, while a decision is active and creates new conditions. When a real decision is made, the brain starts searching for solutions instead of excuses. Energy changes, focus sharpens, and actions begin to align with the choice that was made. Even fear responds differently after a decision. Fear may still exist, but it no longer controls behavior. This is why people often experience sudden growth after a defining moment in their lives, because they decided that staying the same was more painful than changing. Destiny is not a single event. It is the result of repeated decisions over time. Small decisions such as how to respond to failure, how to use time, or what standards to live by slowly build the path a person walks on. One strong decision can interrupt years of negative patterns. It can redefine identity because people act in ways that match what they decide they are. When someone decides they are disciplined, confident, or committed, their actions begin to reflect that identity even before results appear. This is why decisions must be backed by commitment, not emotion. Emotions change, motivation rises and falls, but a true decision remains firm even when it feels uncomfortable. Life does not reward intentions. It responds to action driven by choice. The moment a person decides that excuses are no longer acceptable, their behavior starts to change. That shift in behavior is what alters direction, opens new opportunities, and creates outcomes that once seemed impossible, because destiny is shaped in the moments where a person chooses who they will be, regardless of circumstances. The idea that identity shapes behavior means that what a person believes about themselves directly controls how they act, often without them realizing it. Every choice, habit, and reaction flows from self-image. If someone believes they are confident, capable, and disciplined, they naturally act in ways that support those beliefs. If they believe they are lazy, unlucky, or not good enough, their actions quietly reinforce those labels. Behavior is not random. It is an expression of identity in motion. Most people try to change their lives by forcing new habits without changing how they see themselves. This creates internal resistance because actions that don't match identity feel uncomfortable and unsustainable. For example, someone who identifies as not athletic will struggle to maintain fitness routines not because they lack ability, but because the behavior conflicts with their self-concept. The mind constantly works to stay consistent with identity, even when that identity is limiting. This is why temporary motivation fades and people fall back into old patterns. When identity shifts, behavior follows naturally. The moment someone stops saying, "I'm trying to be disciplined," and starts saying, "I am disciplined," their choices begin to align. They no longer rely on willpower alone because their actions feel like a reflection of who they are. Identity acts like an internal compass, guiding decisions automatically. This is why lasting change begins internally, not externally. Identity is shaped by repeated experiences, words, and decisions. Every time a person keeps a promise to themselves, their identity strengthens. Every time they break one, the opposite happens. Over time, these moments form a self-image that feels permanent, even though it is not. Identity is flexible, but it requires conscious effort to redefine it. Language plays a major role in this process. The words people use to describe themselves become instructions to the brain, reinforcing certain behaviors and rejecting others. When someone intentionally chooses a new identity, they begin to ask different questions. Instead of asking, "Can I do this?" they ask, "What would a person like me do in this situation?" That single shift changes decision-making instantly. Actions become simpler because they are no longer debated, they are aligned. Growth becomes more consistent because behavior is no longer driven by mood, but by self-definition. This is how people move from cycles of starting and stopping into steady progress, as identity quietly pulls behavior in a new direction through everyday choices and responses to challenges. The idea that small actions create massive results highlights how progress is built through consistency rather than dramatic effort. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in a short period and underestimate what daily actions can produce over time. Small actions seem insignificant in the moment, which is why they are easy to ignore, delay, or dismiss. Yet, when repeated consistently, these actions compound, creating outcomes that appear sudden or extraordinary from the outside, but are actually the result of steady effort. Every habit begins as a small action. Reading a few pages a day, practicing a skill for 15 minutes, or choosing a healthier option once does not feel life-changing. However, these choices slowly shape skills, discipline, and self-belief. Each small action reinforces identity and builds momentum. The brain begins to associate effort with progress, making it easier to repeat the behavior the next day. Over time, what once required conscious effort becomes automatic, freeing energy for higher-level growth. Massive results often come from simple systems rather than intense bursts of motivation. A person who focuses on daily improvement builds strength, knowledge, and confidence without burnout. Small actions lower resistance because they feel manageable, even on difficult days. It removes the excuse of waiting for the perfect time or emotional readiness. Consistency becomes possible because the action does not feel overwhelming, yet its impact accumulates quietly. Neglecting small actions also compounds, but in the opposite direction. Skipping responsibilities, delaying tasks, or making careless choices repeatedly leads to frustration and missed potential. The difference between success and regret is rarely a single event. It is the accumulation of small decisions made repeatedly. This is why awareness of daily behavior is crucial. What someone does when no one is watching matters more than occasional big efforts. Small actions also build trust with oneself. Every time a person follows through on a simple commitment, they strengthen self-confidence. That confidence encourages bigger actions in the future. Progress then accelerates, not because the actions suddenly become extreme, but because the foundation is strong. Over time, the gap between effort and outcome widens as results begin to reflect the compounded work. What once seemed ordinary reveals its power, proving that extraordinary change is rarely about doing more all at once, but about doing something meaningful again and again with intention and patience. The idea that emotional state drives performance means that how a person feels in a moment directly influences how they think, act, and perform. Skills, knowledge, and talent matter, but they are filtered through emotional state. A confident, focused person will perform better with the same abilities than someone who feels anxious, discouraged, or overwhelmed. Emotion shapes perception, and perception shapes behavior. This is why two people with equal potential can produce completely different results depending on the state of mind they operate from. Emotional state affects decision-making speed, creativity, resilience, and energy. When someone feels empowered, they take action quickly, see challenges as opportunities, and recover faster from setbacks. When someone feels frustrated or fearful, they hesitate, overthink, and interpret obstacles as proof of limitation. The body and mind work together, so emotions influence posture, breathing, tone of voice, and focus. These physical signals then reinforce the emotion, creating a loop that either boosts or weakens performance. Many people try to improve results by learning new strategies without managing their emotional state. This often leads to inconsistency because even the best plan fails when someone feels drained or discouraged. High performers understand that controlling emotional state is not about pretending everything is perfect, but about choosing how to respond. They use movement, focus, language, and environment to shift how they feel, knowing that emotion is something that can be influenced rather than something that simply happens. Emotions also determine endurance. When motivation fades, emotional state decides whether someone continues or quits. A person who associates effort with pride and growth will persist longer than someone who associates effort with stress or fear. This connection explains why belief and emotion are closely linked. When someone believes progress is possible, their emotional state supports action. When belief weakens, emotions pull performance down with it. Daily life constantly triggers emotional shifts through conversations, setbacks, comparisons, and expectations. Without awareness, these shifts control behavior automatically. With awareness, a person can interrupt negative patterns and choose a more resourceful state. This choice does not remove difficulty, but it changes how difficulty is experienced. Over time, learning to manage emotional state becomes a skill that strengthens confidence and consistency, allowing performance to remain strong even under pressure and uncertainty. The idea that growth lives outside comfort means that improvement requires a willingness to face discomfort, uncertainty, and challenge. Comfort feels safe because it is familiar, predictable, and low risk, but it rarely leads to progress. When a person stays within what they already know and can easily handle, they repeat the same behaviors and produce the same results. Growth begins the moment someone steps into situations that demand learning, adaptation, or courage. Discomfort is often misunderstood as a sign of failure when it is actually a sign of expansion. Trying something new, taking responsibility, or pushing personal limits naturally creates unease because the brain is designed to protect against the unknown. This reaction is not a warning to stop, but a signal that learning is taking place. Every skill that now feels natural once felt awkward and uncomfortable. Avoiding discomfort only delays development and strengthens fear over time. Fear plays a major role in keeping people comfortable. Fear of judgment, failure, or uncertainty convinces many to stay silent, avoid risks, or settle for less than they are capable of. The longer fear is avoided, the more power it gains. When faced gradually, fear weakens. Each uncomfortable action taken builds evidence that growth is possible and survivable. Confidence is not the absence of fear, but the result of repeatedly acting despite it. Comfort can also create stagnation by lowering expectations. When life feels easy, urgency disappears. Effort decreases, curiosity fades, and potential remains unused. This does not mean comfort is negative, but that it should not become a permanent state. Growth requires tension, challenge, and resistance, much like muscles require stress to become stronger. Without challenge, strength declines. Stepping outside comfort does not mean reckless action or constant stress. It means intentionally choosing challenges that stretch ability and mindset. Small, uncomfortable actions, such as speaking up, learning a difficult skill, or accepting responsibility, create momentum. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes normal, and the comfort zone expands. This expansion changes self-belief because the mind begins to associate challenge with capability rather than threat. As comfort shifts, new levels of growth become possible through continued willingness to face discomfort and uncertainty with intention and courage. The idea that consistency beats motivation highlights the difference between short-term energy and long-term results. Motivation is temporary. It comes in bursts and is often influenced by mood, excitement, or external events. On some days, a person feels motivated, ready to work hard, and inspired to take action, while on other days, motivation is low, distractions are high, and it feels almost impossible to move forward. Relying solely on motivation makes progress unpredictable because it is not constant. Consistency, on the other hand, is a deliberate choice to act regularly, regardless of how someone feels in the moment, and it is the true driver of lasting achievement. Consistency works because it creates momentum. When a person shows up every day, even with small actions, the brain and body begin to adapt, forming habits that eventually require less conscious effort. The accumulation of repeated actions compounds into measurable results over time. Unlike motivation, which spikes and fades, consistency builds a foundation that supports growth even during periods of low emotional energy. Habits formed through consistent effort eventually become automatic, making high performance less dependent on fleeting feelings of inspiration. Motivation can inspire someone to start, but it rarely sustains effort long enough to create meaningful change. Many people begin projects, start routines, or set goals with excitement, only to give up when motivation decreases. This creates cycles of starting and stopping, which often lead to frustration and self-doubt. Consistency bypasses this cycle by shifting focus from temporary feelings to reliable acti. Choosing to act every day, even imperfectly, builds self-trust, reinforces identity, and creates a sense of progress that motivation alone cannot provide. Consistency also strengthens discipline and resilience. The act of showing up, even when conditions are not ideal, trains the mind to prioritize long-term results over short-term comfort. It builds confidence because a person learns they can rely on themselves to take action regardless of circumstances. Small, consistent steps accumulate into large outcomes, often far beyond what sudden bursts of effort could achieve, and these results reinforce the value of persistence. Over time, the combination of steady action and repeated effort outweighs any initial spark of motivation, proving that real success is created not by fleeting excitement, but by persistent, reliable, and disciplined behavior maintained day after day. So, as we wrap up today, remember this: 2026 is not waiting to define you. You are the one who will define it. It will be shaped by the decisions you make, the standards you set, and the consistent actions you take every single day. The small choices, the moments when you push through discomfort, the times you refuse to settle, they all add up to create the life you dream of. The power to become your best self is already inside you. All you have to do is decide, commit, and take action. There is no perfect moment, no magic formula. There is only your willingness to step forward again and again until your potential becomes your reality. So go out there, embrace the challenges, trust yourself, and make this year your year. Good luck on your journey of growth, courage, and transformation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing in yourself. And thank you for letting today be the start of something extraordinary. If you want, I can also craft a slightly punchier, video-friendly version of this conclusion that leaves viewers feeling electrified and ready to act immediately. It would pair perfectly with your energetic introduction. Do you want me to do that?